When Marcus Hale, the youngest black billionaire in the country, extended his hand toward Victoria Langford, the CFO of Vexler Industries, everyone expected a perfect business photo. But instead, she froze. Her eyes flicked down at his hand, then back up, and she smiled. That cold, condescending smile. "I don't shake hands with outsiders," she whispered. A ripple of disbelief spread across the ballroom. Executives coughed, pretending they hadn't heard. The host tried to laugh it off, but Marcus didn't move. He simply looked at her long enough for her to realize she'd just made a mistake she'd never be able to erase. Then he smiled. Calm, controlled. The kind of smile a man wears before he flips the world upside down. He lowered his hand, turned toward the cameras, and said softly, "You just shook the wrong deal, Miss Langford." That night, she laughed about it with her friends, called him overly sensitive. But when the sun rose the next morning, her company's servers were locked. The stock had crashed 73%, and $2.4 billion gone, vanished overnight, and the man she had humiliated wasn't taking any calls. The ballroom shimmered like liquid gold. Crystal chandeliers cast warm halos across marble floors as violins played in perfect rhythm. It was the Forbes Future Leaders Gala, where the rich didn't just attend. They performed. Every table glittered with names that controlled the world's money. And tonight, all eyes were on Marcus Hale, the man they called the quiet genius. At only 34, Marcus had built Hale Dynamics, an AI empire powering banks, hospitals, and even the federal grid. A self-made black CEO from Detroit, who went from coding in a broken apartment to running billion-dollar systems. He walked through the hall with quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't shout, it echoes. Every camera turned toward him. Every handshake seemed to mean something. Until he reached the Vexler Industries table. "Mr. Hale?" said Victoria Langford, the CFO, tall, elegant, with diamond earrings and a reputation for ruthlessness. Her tone carried charm, but her eyes, cold, assessing, looked at Marcus like he didn't belong. He extended his hand politely. "Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Langford." For a brief second, everything froze, cameras, chatter, even the music. Victoria's smile faltered. She glanced at his hand, then folded hers behind her back. "I don't shake hands with outsiders," she said softly, just loud enough for the table to hear. The silence was deafening. Someone coughed. Another pretended to check their phone. Marcus's hand stayed suspended in the air for a heartbeat. Then he slowly pulled it back. His voice stayed calm, too calm. "Understood," he said, with a faint smile that hid the storm brewing inside. "Some partnerships begin with a handshake. Others end without one." He turned away before anyone could respond. The cameras caught it all, the rejection, the tension, the humiliation. As he walked toward the exit, he heard Victoria whisper to her assistant, "He'll come around." They always do. But Marcus didn't stop walking. Outside, the cold night hit his face. The city lights below glittered like data streams, and he knew exactly what to do. He pulled out his phone, opened a secure channel. "Lena," he said to his head of security, "initiate Project Silence." Her voice came sharp through the earpiece. "Sir, are you sure?" "That's connected to—" He cut her off. "I'm sure." He looked back at the ballroom through the glass, Victoria laughing, unaware that her empire had just been marked. "Lock every Vexler node," he said. And when he ended the call, his reflection stared back at him, calm, controlled, dangerous. Tomorrow morning, he thought. She learned what happens when arrogance shakes the wrong hand. The next morning began with chaos. At exactly 5:47 a.m., alarms started screaming inside Vexler Industries' global headquarters. Monitors flashed red. Passwords failed. Servers rebooted into endless loops of encrypted code. At first, the IT team thought it was a glitch, maybe a bad update, but then the financial feed went blank. Millions, then billions, of digital assets vanished from their internal ledgers, like water slipping through fingers. By 6:10 a.m., panic had turned to hysteria. Trading platforms froze. Bank partners were locked out, and Victoria Langford, who had gone to bed feeling untouchable, was jolted awake by her assistant's trembling call. "Ma'am, we've got a problem." A massive one. Within minutes, she was in her office, still in last night's dress. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other. "What do you mean, problem?" She snapped. The assistant swallowed hard. "Our system's down? The reserve accounts, the ones tied to Project Quantum, are inaccessible. It's like someone just erased them." Victoria frowned, typing furiously on her tablet. The screen blinked. "Access denied, network breach detected." She froze. Her palms went cold. "How much money are we talking about?" The assistant looked pale. $2.4 billion. Victoria stared, her breath catching. That's impossible. That data is protected by triple-tier encryption. The assistant whispered, "It was until someone used your authorization code." Her blood ran cold. "My code?" "Yes, ma'am. The system says you triggered the lockout." Her phone buzzed again. The board of directors calling. Investors panicking. Media alerts flooding in. CNN. Vexler Industries experiences unprecedented financial crash. Reuters. $2.40 billion missing, internal sabotage suspected. Victoria's fingers trembled as she tried to call the bank's emergency line, but each call dropped. The system wasn't just breached, it was owned, and somewhere in the digital maze of firewalls, one line of code appeared on every Vexler terminal. Respect is earned, not demanded. She stared at those initials. Her throat tightened. Marcus Hale? She whispered. It couldn't be him, could it? But the timing, the precision, the access level, only someone like him could pull this off. Her humiliation last night replayed in her mind, her smirk, the cameras, the way he walked away without a word. She felt a knot of regret twist inside her chest, mixed with fear. Because this wasn't a simple hacker's revenge. This was a message, silent, calculated, poetic. Outside her glass office, hundreds of employees rushed about, shouting into phones, trying to stop the financial bleeding. The company's stock plummeted to 40%, then 60%. By 8:30 a.m., the empire she ruled just hours ago was on fire. Victoria sank into her chair, staring blankly at the chaos unfolding below. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. With trembling hands, she answered. Silence. Then, a calm voice. "Good morning, Miss Langford. Still not shaking hands, I presume?" Her breath caught. "Marcus, you'll find humility far harder to regain than money." And then the line went dead. While the world screamed Victoria's name across headlines, Marcus Hale sat alone, miles away, on the 52nd floor of his penthouse office. Watching the chaos unfold on 3 screens, the morning sunlight poured through the glass walls, painting his sharp features in gold. His assistant Lena stood beside him, uneasy. "Sir, it's all over the news. Vexler is collapsing. Their stock's gone. The FBI is requesting a statement." Marcus didn't respond. He just stared at the live ticker flashing. Vexler Industries, minus 73.2%. He sipped his coffee slowly, calm, detached. Inside him, there was no celebration, just a quiet ache that victory never healed. Lena hesitated. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Marcus finally spoke, his tone low. "I warned them. I built systems that could protect the world, not enslave it." They laughed. "They called me lucky." Then she refused to shake my hand. He turned his chair toward the skyline, the same city that once ignored him, mocked him, doubted him. "Do you know what it feels like, Lena?" He murmured. "To walk into rooms where every man has already decided your worth." "Before you speak?" Lena didn't answer. She knew his story, or at least parts of it. Detroit, a single mother working 2 jobs. A boy who fixed broken computers from garbage bins, who coded at night by candlelight because the power was cut. A boy who lost his mother because a hospital's outdated AI system failed to flag her heart condition in time. That's why he built Hale Dynamics. Not for money, but to prove that smart systems could save lives where prejudice couldn't. He had offered that very system to Vexler Industries 2 years ago. They rejected it, said it was too risky, too unconventional, too black-owned. That rejection had cost them nothing then, but today it had cost them everything. On the other side of the city, Victoria Langford faced cameras flashing like gunfire. "Ms. Langford, did you personally authorize the transaction? Was it insider trading? Are you stepping down as CFO?" She couldn't breathe. Every flash, every shout felt like a nail in her coffin. Her once perfect image shattered. By afternoon, the news cycle was brutal. Racist CFO faces karma. $1 billion handshake scandal. She wanted to scream that she wasn't racist, that it was just a misunderstanding. But the world didn't care about explanations anymore. It cared about irony. And the irony was perfect. That night, Marcus sat by his window, the city lights flickering below. His reflection looked tired, not powerful. He whispered to himself, "You see, Mom, I didn't destroy them for money. I destroyed them for the boy they once made me feel ashamed to be. His phone buzzed, an encrypted message from Lena. Sir, the press is calling this the Hale effect. They're saying you just changed corporate ethics forever. Marcus smiled faintly. Ethics? He muttered. No, Lena, I just reminded them what respect costs. Outside, the storm clouds gathered again over the skyline. The night wasn't over, and neither was the story. The city hadn't stopped talking. Every headline, every podcast, every late-night show was dissecting the handshake scandal. Victoria Langford had gone from being one of the most powerful CFOs in America to the face of arrogance and downfall. She hadn't slept for 48 hours. Every investor had pulled out. The board was demanding her resignation. And the internet, ruthless as ever, turned her life into a meme factory. #HandshakeGate trended worldwide. But what hurt most wasn't the money. It was the silence. The silence from Marcus Hale. He hadn't spoken publicly once. No interviews, no statements, no gloating. Just calm silence, the kind that screamed louder than a press conference ever could. On the third night, Victoria sat in her dark apartment overlooking the city, glass of untouched wine beside her. Her reflection in the window looked older, smaller, almost broken. She opened her laptop and typed a name into the search bar. Marcus Hale Dynamics headquarters. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then, with trembling hands, she clicked Request Meeting. The automated response came instantly. Request received. Meeting approved. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. She blinked in disbelief. He'd accepted. For the first time since the crash, a flicker of hope touched her face. The next morning, Victoria arrived at Hale Dynamics. The building stood like a fortress of glass and steel, clean, modern, intimidating. Security escorted her through silent halls lined with screens showing AI prototypes, real-time analytics, and global impact reports. When the elevator doors opened at the top floor, she felt her heart race. Marcus was standing by the window, facing the skyline. He didn't turn when she entered. "Miss Langford," he said calmly. "You look different without the cameras." She swallowed hard. "Mr. Hale, I came to apologize?" He interrupted softly. "Or to recover what you lost." Victoria's voice trembled. "I made a mistake. I didn't mean—" Marcus turned, his expression unreadable. "You didn't mean to what? Refuse a handshake? Humiliate a man you thought was beneath you?" Tears welled in her eyes, but she held them back. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "You've made your point. You destroyed everything. Congratulations." Marcus walked toward her, slow, steady, deliberate. "Destroyed?" he repeated. "You think I destroyed you?" He leaned closer, voice like cold glass. "No, Miss Langford, you destroyed yourself. I just accelerated the process." Victoria exhaled shakily. "What do you want from me?" Marcus turned back to the window. "I don't want your money. I don't want revenge. I just wanted you to feel what I felt that moment you refused my hand." She bit her lip, her voice breaking. "Then what now?" "You've proven your point. Let me fix this." He turned sharply. "Fix it? Respect isn't software, Victoria. You can't patch it." For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the billionaire who had everything, and the woman who had lost it all. Finally, Marcus sighed. "You'll get your company back," he said. "But you'll never control it again." Victoria frowned. "What do you mean?" He tapped his watch, activating a holographic display. Vexler Industries. Transfer of ownership Hale Dynamics 51%. Her heart stopped. "You bought us?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Consider it poetic justice. The woman who refused to shake my hand now works under it." She stared at him, shocked, speechless. And for the first time, Marcus smiled. A quiet, satisfied smile. "Welcome to Hale Dynamics, Ms. Langford." The next morning, every major news outlet in the world carried the same headline. Hale Dynamics acquires majority stake in Vexler Industries, Langford to remain under Hale's supervision. Social media exploded. Memes turned into shock. The once untouchable CFO was now an employee of the man she had humiliated. Victoria stared at the news in disbelief. Every message, every email, every call was either pity or curiosity. She couldn't even step outside her apartment without cameras waiting to capture. The fall of Victoria Langford. And yet, when the email from Hale Dynamics came, simple, polite, terrifying, she dressed, fixed her hair, and went, "Subject, welcome to the future. From Malay. Time, 8 a.m. Your new role begins today. Report at 9 sharp." When she arrived, Marcus's assistant guided her through the same glass hallway as before. Only this time, there were no photographers. No applause, just silence and the echo of her own heels. Marcus was waiting in a minimalist office. No luxury, no gold. Just glass, light, and precision. "Ms. Langford," he said without looking up, "take a seat." She sat down, feeling the weight of invisible judgment. "I've decided to give you a second chance," Marcus began. "But not the way you expect," she frowned. "A second chance? After everything?" He nodded. "You see, money can be rebuilt. Image can be rebranded. But character, that's harder." He pressed a button on his desk. A holographic display appeared, a list of Vexler's internal reports, private communications and memos. "Your department approved discriminatory hiring filters last year," he said evenly. "You rejected dozens of qualified applicants based on cultural mismatch." Victoria's mouth went dry. "That wasn't me directly." Marcus raised his hand. "It doesn't matter. It happened under your name. You wanted power, but not responsibility. Now, I'm giving you both." He leaned forward. "For the next 6 months, you'll head Hale's new Equality Division. You'll rebuild what you destroyed, publicly, personally, every project, every policy. You'll face the people you once ignored." Her voice cracked. "You're forcing me into humiliation." Marcus's tone softened, just slightly. "No, Victoria. I'm giving you a choice to earn what you once demanded." She looked away, her pride fighting her guilt. "And if I refuse?" He looked at her quietly. "Then Vexler Industries dissolves completely. Thousands lose their jobs. You decide which weight you can live with." Silence filled the room. The powerful woman who once dictated empires now stared at the floor, broken. After a long pause, she whispered, "I'll do it." Marcus nodded once. "Good, your first meeting's at noon. You'll address the entire staff, including the employees you once fired." She blinked. "You're making me face them?" He gave a faint smile. "Redemption doesn't happen behind closed doors." Victoria rose to leave, her throat tight. But before stepping out, she turned back and asked softly, "Marcus, does this make us even?" He looked out the window, his reflection calm and distant. "Even?" he murmured. "No, Miss Langford, this isn't revenge anymore." He turned, eyes sharp, voice low. "This is reform." The elevator ride to the 27th floor felt endless. Victoria stood stiffly, holding a tablet in trembling hands. Her reflection in the mirrored walls looked unfamiliar, the confident executive replaced by a pale, silent woman carrying the weight of her own decisions. When the doors opened, a wave of murmurs hit her. Dozens of employees turned their heads. Some whispered, some glared. Others simply watched in cold silence. The glass conference room was already full. Every seat taken. Every eye waiting. Marcus Hale wasn't there. He didn't need to be. His absence was louder than his presence. Victoria stepped to the podium, her heart pounding so hard she could barely hear herself breathe. The same people she had once ordered, overruled, or ignored now sat across from her, no fear in their eyes, only judgment. She cleared her throat. "Good morning," she began, her voice trembling slightly.
"I know many of you don't want me here, and I understand why." A man from the back spoke up, bitterness in his tone. "You think one speech fixes what you did?" The room went silent. Victoria froze, then slowly nodded. "No," she said softly. "It doesn't." She took a deep breath. "I used to believe respect came from titles, from power, from the way others looked at me. But when you lose everything, your job, your reputation, your pride, you learn the truth. Respect isn't given, it's earned." Her words echoed in the room, heavy and raw. I said something unforgivable to a man who had worked harder than anyone in this room to deserve respect. I didn't just insult him, I insulted everything he stood for. And for that, I'm sorry. A murmur swept through the crowd, some skeptical, some surprised. Then she looked at a young black woman seated near the front. Someone she vaguely remembered. Angela, right? Victoria asked gently. He applied for a leadership position last year. He never got a response. Angela nodded stiffly. He personally denied it. Victoria's eyes glistened. I know, and I was wrong. She walked closer, her voice breaking. You deserved that chance. You earned it. So, starting today, you'll lead this division with me as co-director. Gasps rippled through the room. Angela's eyes widened in disbelief. Victoria smiled faintly. If I'm going to rebuild equality, it starts with giving the right people the power to do it. For the first time, someone in the room clapped. Then another. Then the whole division. It wasn't thunderous, it was cautious, hesitant, but it was real. When the meeting ended, Victoria stepped outside, her eyes wet. The morning sun hit the glass like forgiveness. And as she walked toward the elevator, she saw Marcus standing at the end of the corridor, watching silently. He hadn't interrupted. He hadn't tested her. He had just observed. Their eyes met. For a moment, no words were needed. He gave a small nod, not approval, not pity, something deeper. Recognition. Comma. Victoria exhaled, finally feeling the weight inside her began to lift. For the first time in years, she didn't feel powerful. She felt human. The office was empty by evening. The city lights shimmered through the tall glass walls, and the sound of distant traffic blended with the hum of servers below. Marcus stood by the window again, hands in pockets, watching the skyline burn and sunset. Victoria hesitated outside the door before finally stepping in. He didn't turn. You handled the meeting well. She swallowed. I didn't do it for approval. He smiled faintly, still facing the glass. Good, that's how it should be. Silence stretched between them. Not hostile, not cold, just heavy with things unsaid. Finally, Victoria spoke softly. Why did you really do all this, Marcus? You could have destroyed me completely. You didn't. Why?
The headline burned across every major outlet. The man who tried to save lives, and the world that laughed at him. Marcus stayed silent. He didn't call a press conference, didn't post a statement. He simply continued his work, as if none of it mattered. But deep inside, the attention unsettled him. He had never wanted sympathy, only respect. And now the world's sudden compassion felt hollow, performative. That evening, Victoria knocked on his office door. She looked different. Not the arrogant executive she once was. Just a tired woman learning how to stand again. You've seen the news? She asked quietly. Marcus nodded without looking up. Yes. The world's apologizing. The same world that made the wound. She walked closer. Maybe they're trying to make it right. He sighed. People love redemption stories, as long as they belong to someone else. Victoria hesitated. Then why not speak up? Tell them the truth. Tell them what really happened to your mother. It could change everything. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. You still think truth changes people? Her lips parted, but she had no answer. He stood, walking to the window, the skyline glowing beneath the night. When I built Hale Dynamics, I thought changing systems meant changing hearts. But hearts. He paused. They take longer. Victoria lowered her gaze. You changed mine. Marcus smiled faintly. That's one. 9 billion to go. They both stood there in silence as thunder rolled again outside. Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed. A notification from the company's global feed. A trending topic. #handshake of change. He opened it. The tag showed millions of people, of all colors, countries, and classes, posting photos shaking hands with others. School kids, CEOs, nurses, factory workers. The caption, respect is earned by humanity, not hierarchy. M. Hale. Victoria covered her mouth, eyes wet. They're quoting you. Marcus stared at the screen, something fragile flickering behind his calm expression. It wasn't pride. It wasn't triumph. It was peace. For the first time, the world didn't just see a black CEO. It saw a son, a builder, a man who turned pain into progress. He turned to Victoria and said quietly, maybe now, she can finally rest. Outside, Lightning flashed over the city, not as destruction, but illumination. And as the light filled the room, Marcus finally allowed himself to breathe. 3 weeks passed. The chaos of headlines faded into silence, replaced by something gentler: respect. Marcus Hale had vanished from the public eye again. No interviews, no statements, not even a social post. The world wondered where he went. But deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, behind a plain glass building with no logo, he was building again. A new project, a new vision. Not for profit, but for purpose. The door to the lab opened. Victoria stepped in, holding a small file. "You didn't tell me you started again," she said softly. Marcus looked up from a glowing digital map, his expression calm, focused. "I didn't think anyone would understand." She smiled faintly. "Try me." He hesitated, then turned the screen toward her. It showed a global network, thousands of dots glowing like stars. "It's called Project Grace," he said quietly. "Named after my mother. It's an open-source health AI, accessible to every clinic in the world, even the smallest ones. No subscriptions, no ownership, just help." Victoria stared at the screen, her eyes softening. "You're giving it away. For free." He nodded. Some things should never be sold. There was a silence, a heavy, emotional silence, where the hum of servers became the heartbeat of something sacred. Victoria stepped closer. "Let me help." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're still with Vexler." "Not anymore," she said firmly. "I resigned. The board didn't take it well, but I'm done building walls. I want to build bridges." He studied her face for a long time. The woman who once refused his handshake was now extending hers. Not for apology, but for partnership. Slowly, Marcus reached out his hand. This time, she took it. And for a moment, the entire weight of the past, the humiliation, the headlines, the silence, disappeared. She smiled through tears. "What made you name it Grace?" Marcus looked away, voice soft as memory. "When my mother was in the hospital, the last thing she said to me was, 'Be kind, even when they're not.'" Victoria blinked back tears. She'd be proud. He exhaled, staring at the map again. "I hope so." For the next hour, they worked side by side, two people who had once stood on opposite ends of a wound, now healing it together through purpose. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that within that quiet room, history was being rewritten, not with revenge, but redemption. As the night deepened, Marcus whispered almost to himself, "Maybe the world doesn't need another billionaire. Maybe it needs believers." Victoria smiled. "Then let's make them believe." And under the soft hum of the servers, Project Grace came alive, not as code, but as forgiveness turned into light. A year later, the world had changed. Hospitals across 42 countries were now running on Project Grace. Clinics in remote villages, overworked doctors in war zones, all using Marcus's AI to save lives. And every time a patient's vitals blinked green on a monitor, a small line of code quietly appeared in the corner of the screen. Powered by Grace. Marcus never took credit. No interviews. No public appearances. Only quiet work. And peace. One morning, he visited a small community hospital in Georgia, the same one where his mother had once worked. The staff didn't recognize him at first. To them, he was just another volunteer fixing the network. Until a nurse, an older woman with kind eyes, said softly, "You look just like the man who built that system. What was his name again?" "Hale." Marcus smiled faintly. "Something like that." She laughed. "Well, whoever he is, tell him he saved lives here. Hundreds, maybe thousands." Marcus nodded. "I'll make sure he knows." He walked outside, sat on the hospital steps, and watched children playing in the courtyard. Their laughter mixed with the sound of wind and distant bells. For a moment, he imagined his mother there, watching from the window, wearing that same tired but proud smile. And he whispered, "It's working, Mom. It's finally working." A gentle breeze brushed his face, as if in reply. Later that day, he got a message from Victoria. A photo, her standing beside a group of young programmers, all from marginalized communities, holding a banner that read, "Code with Grace." Her text beneath it said, "We did it. Together." Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. Then he typed back. It was never about shaking hands. It was about opening them. He put the phone away, leaned back against the sunlight, and closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, there was no anger left, no noise, just peace. The world would never fully know his story, and that was okay, because the real victory wasn't the billions lost or earned. It was in every life saved, every barrier broken, every heart that learned to see beyond color. The camera would have faded out there. On Marcus Hale, the man who refused to answer hate with hate, a man who turned humiliation into hope, and a handshake refused, into a world reborn. Fade out. Be kind, even when they're not. Grace Hale.